It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Q Time is our classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 11.
Good day, good people. Once again, you've got the grumpy old nerds in your ear. As always, it is me, the original OG grumpy old nerd, but wait a minute. See, I had my prop set up. See, usually they call me Clark Kent, Clark Kent, Black Clark Kent. But today I'm Black Superman. And as always with our group of characters, we have Uncle Rod, aka Jimmy Olsen. We have Uncle Percy, aka Perry Black, and always making the picture that much better. We have Auntie Nicole, aka Lois Lane, and behind the ones and twos, we have Brainiac, Uncle Roy. What's going on, Doctor? I'll take that one.
Hey, can I switch out Jimmy Olsen for Val-Zod?
or Jor-El. How's that? You can be Jor-El.
Princess Leia, please.
She's gonna say Princess Leia and just screw up the whole thing.
Yeah, it's messed the whole theme up. Let's do it in another direction.
Oh,
but wait. I'm still waiting for Lex Luthor to show his face. But hopefully he'll be here momentarily.
Oh yeah.
But I would be remiss if I did not talk about inclusion or pandering, some may call it. So the interwebs have been in an uproar here recently over the fact that there is going to be a Black Superman, film made. Originally, most in the nerd community were thinking that it would be Val-Zod, a character created by, I want to say Warren Ellis, or was it Grant Morrison? Either way, one of the many of the Superman in the multiverse of DC Comics. But no, the Black Superman is going to be Clark Kent, but they're just going to race swap and make him Black. Here is why all of us nerds have our draws in a bunch. There comes a point where inclusion is sidestepped by pandering. Right now, DC is in a point of most of their properties in their live action universe are trash. And it seems like they're grasping at any straw possible to attract a particular audience. Now, let it be said that up to this point, we all have looked for something to represent us on the screen, whether it be the small screen or the big screen. I'm tired of 70s sitcoms with one Black character. Hello, Tootie on Facts and Laugh. I'm tired of all these TV shows where you have a special guest star as one Black character in these genre shows. We have been looking for representation for years. And I'm speaking of us grumpy old nerds out there. And then all of a sudden we have Lovecraft Country. We have them. We have Black Lightning. We have Black Panther. All of these particular shows, which don't have a singular representative of us, they are us. Mm-hmm. So now when DC announces that they want to race swap a particular character, one of the most popular characters in comics of all time, if not the most popular character, now they want to make him Black. You have a stable of Black characters, DC. You do not have to give us another rehashing of the Superman mythos just with a character with darker skin. That is not inclusion, that is pandering, in my opinion. I'm tired of all of these characters being race swapped, being gender swapped. It reeks of a lack of imagination. Mm-hmm. Yes, the fact that you gave us a Black Nick Fury in the Avengers films, that was great. That worked out because Samuel L. Jackson is one hell of an actor, and the writing was up to par where the character didn't seem out of place. But if you're going to give us a Black Superman, that's just stupid. And I want you to stop it. Again, we're also talking about the fact that Nick Fury is in the Marvel universe, where it just seems Marvel does everything right. And the Black Superman is in the DC universe, where everything DC does just turns to shit. So DC, stop it. You've got to find somebody that will let you know what your audience is looking for, what your audience needs, what your audience will respond to. Because right now, if you put out there a Black Superman, that just that's not a good look. So I give up my seat. Please, auntie and uncles, let me know your feelings about this ridiculous.
I cede the remainder of my time. Auntie Nicole, you're up.
Well, I mean, I absolutely agree, because I think the one thing that Marvel did well is the fact that they brought to light, say, characters that were already Black and bring their story out. So you don't have to change anything for that. Just make a great story. You know, Black Panther worked because it worked. That is exactly who the character is. That is they went ahead and reimagined things that people couldn't with the world of Wakanda. And it just was a perfect, a thing of events for them to be able to do that. But DC, their biggest problem is they're grabbing at something to try to create their version of a wonderful universe like Marvel has. But the problem is their house is just not in order. Their house isn't in order for what they have already out on film. I'm sure, you know, DC has a couple of, say, Black characters that they could bring to light on the screen and such without having to reinvent the wheel just by giving us a Black Superman. I honestly feel that if they were to do that, it would be an epic fail, because at that point, I think people see that that is just them trying to grab at what's in the now and so on. Just as we've spoken before that, you know, black is in now, you know, that's kind of popular right now. So now you're taking just something that's popular right now and trying to just, okay, let's plaster this all over the place, and it's not going to work. And I mean, they have some storylines and so on like that in Final Crisis and so on, but you know, these were things with different worlds and so on like that. That could work maybe if they can get themselves a great writer that knows how to mesh all those things together. But I hate to say it, but right now I haven't really seen much outside of what the first Wonder Woman, you know, some 95% of Aquaman, because I can't say I enjoyed the entire film. And, you know, certain
exactly 95%.
Right. And certain things like that in which that worked, you know, and so on. But you're talking about out of everything they've created so far in line with what Marvel has put out, I mean, DC is not even at 50%. So, I mean, I don't know how they're going to go ahead and create a whole nother character that is a beloved character, Superman, you know what I'm saying, and just make him Black. It doesn't work that way.
Well, I just want to say, really, kind of to echo Nicole's sentiments. And when you look at what's going on now, when you feature Black people and it's done right, it's very well done.
Mm-hmm.
People love it. When you try to shoehorn and try to create stuff out of nowhere for no reason, that's when it falls flat. And people kind of see it. They can tell.
Mm-hmm.
As we mentioned before, there's no need to have Clark Kent be a Black man, because you have Supermen who are of color from Earth 23 and from which was Calvin Ellis, and Earth 2, which is Val Zod, which they've shown already in comics. So they could easily use, and you could use either one of those two and just go on about their business and do a Superman story. I don't know why, and you know what? I'm just gonna throw this out there. We need to really do a deep dive and figure out what the hell is going on in DC. I have my suspicions. But I really believe that there's got to be some kind of clash somewhere in the upper stratosphere of management
Mm-hmm.
with the creators that we're just not aware of, and
Right.
they're just not going to say it, and because it doesn't make sense to execute things sometimes so poorly as they do. But I'm going to leave that for another time. I think, you know, we can all do a really good job of figuring that out. But as far as in general, you know, when you race swap, it's really not that good of an idea. You look at both of the big two. You look at some of the other companies that, you know, we may discuss, like you know, Image, Top Cow, Dark Horse, whatever. They have characters already of color already made up, and they're doing really great things with them. DC has plenty of characters of color they can use and feature in a lot of their things.
Yep.
You see them every now and then on their TV shows. Some of them done well, some of them not so much. You see in Marvel, Marvel has a few characters of color, and Black people in particular, that they use really well. You just saw Falcon and the Winter Soldier. All right, so a lot of people actually had a problem with Falcon being the new Captain America, of course. So I mean, but it was executed really well. The comic actually did pretty well. I mean, it didn't break records, but it held its own for the small time that Sam Wilson was actually holding the shield. So I mean, I would count that as a success. I
Yeah.
cede my
So,
time.
yeah. so well, you know, before Uncle Percy, before I get to you, the Redbone Assassin has decided to join us today. The Black Lex Luthor, DJ, Uncle DJ, what's going on, sir?
What's up, bro? I'm sorry I had to be responsible. I had to do my Uncle Percy routine, that type of deal. Had to grab some break. Is he awake? Just checking. Sorry, Uncle Percy. Race swapping. I thought that was something different, but maybe I'm wrong.
That's the secret category on Pornhub.
Yeah, no. That's all good. We gotta have that on. That's got to be a category on the new show on the nurse.
Oh man.
So Uncle DJ, we were discussing the fact that they're going to make a black Superman.
Right.
They actually have a couple of black Supermen in the comics.
Right.
But they've decided to make Black Superman just a black Clark Kent. And
I actually, I'm a fan, of our people, and I'm always going to promote our people. But I agree, like with any movie fan or a fan of some of the old movies and stuff that here we go, take this movie and instead of like you always say, lazy writing, that's lazy producing or lazy whatever, green lighting. It's like there's so much original content out here to be had, if they would just give people a chance, and that includes people of color. I mean, look what old girl did with the Lovecraft Country. They gave her a shot, and now they talk about, oh well, shit, maybe you should write, the next, whatever, give people a shot, and but they want to redo everything, and so I'm kind of with that with the Black Superman. It's like, you don't have to redo everything. You can, like he said, there's content out there already. Okay, if you want to expose people to stuff that's already, that's already been created, and it's already good and already has followers, then do that. But just to race swap, just for the sake of race swapping, is like.
I got you thinking about those categories now, huh?
The categories, because Uncle Roy is, gonna hold my feet to the fire. So, I gotta start thinking about. I'm talking about the nerd show, man. Questions for the show. Gotta come up with some shit.
Here's my
one thing I want to say real quick, though.
Go ahead.
Shout out to Misha Green, the writer of Lovecraft Country, because
thank you, Misha Green.
Yeah, she did something that I really didn't think I would like when I first heard about the show.
Enjoyed it.
She did a really good job because the writings of H.P. Lovecraft, were really, really good. Although he was a notorious xenophobe and a
blaming racist.
Yeah, he was so racist that one of his contemporaries and friends, who was also racist, Robert E. Howard, the creator of Conan the Barbarian, was like, "Oh, HP, chill." That's how racist he was. All right, so
you're bad.
Yeah.
Another racist being like, whoa.
Right, like that. You got to chill, bro. But and that's why I love it so much, because it took the writings of that guy who talked so crazy about black people and it featured black people in the story. Powerful black people, smart black people, intelligent, beautiful black people fighting against these forces that he described in his writings. And so I really salute her for that. She did a great job with that.
Yes.
Absolutely. And she's being recognized now because she is doing a DC property, if I'm not mistaken.
Is she?
She is. She has been signed to do a DC property. But Uncle Percy, I want to hear your thoughts. And to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, Rod and DJ and Nicole, you have an entire generation who grew up with Jon Stewart as Green Lantern. You know what I'm saying? Now, we old heads know that the original Green Lantern was Hal Jordan, white dude. But you have an entire generation who actually got angry with the fact that when people talk about Green Lantern, they're not talking about Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart to them is the Green Lantern. So yes, DC is doing a stupid job of taking characters who people are familiar with and enjoy and not utilizing them. I'm sorry, Uncle Percy, go ahead.
Well, this is just a conversation I was saying last week about them just stealing our basically just stealing our childhood and not coming up with any good new characters, anything. I mean, gender swap, race swap, it doesn't matter. It's all, it's just BS. It's just BS across the board. And but here's the thing: the difference between Green Lantern and Superman. At least with the Green Lantern, there was a core. There's actually standards behind the Green Lantern core where Hal Jordan, like, I'm giving this up, I'm handing it to this man, boom, 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 boom. We can go along with that. With Superman, you can't touch it. Just leave it alone. Just completely leave it alone. That's like saying, I'm about to go. My favorite, Prince Planet is now a black kid from the South Side of Chicago. It's not going to happen. Or Speed Racer. Or I'm just saying.
You're right.
Could you see Speed Racer? Could you see Speed Racer as a black man? You could, but I would be offended because I'm like, that's not the true. I would see it like that's not the true Speed Racer.
Why not just come up with an original character?
Right.
Yeah. All right, Uncle Roy. Come on, give it to us.
I mean, I'm pretty much in lockstep with everybody else, man. I mean, I don't mind it so much when you start looking at what we would call secondary characters or, sidekick characters. I'm cool with some of that because, like, even, most people didn't talk about it. Of course, they had to do it from a movie perspective, but like Bucky was changed from what he was in the comics. Bucky was actually a teenager because all sidekicks were teenagers back in the day. But to create a story where you make Kal-El black, I think it's like you said, lazy writing, no imagination, and it proves why DC is the dumpster fire clusterfuck that we know it is today. That they just are not doing.
Wow.
They are not
cluster
trying.
F.
Yeah,
He's pretty upset.
They are not trying because when I saw that that's what they were doing, because I was thinking it was going to be one of the other two black Supermen. That was either going to be Calvin or Val Zod. And it's just like, yo, I'm like, nah, man, that you're not even using the Superman that your people created. It's a black dude.
Yeah.
Like, why? Because who would not want to hear? Because is it Calvin that's the president?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, tell me that damn story. What did y'all have in the comic book? How Superman become a black man and president? What the hell? I want to know that. I don't want to hear shit else about Smallville. I know about Smallville. So, yeah, DC.
I was wondering, they can use, like, say, do something where instead of trying to recreate Superman, why don't you bring in the separate worlds? You know what I'm saying? And so on like that. Create a storyline around the multiple universes or what have you, where maybe they come together or something. And that way, you want to even with the way the market is, slowly introduce that, even the idea of something like that, especially with such a beloved character. See, the one thing that Marvel did very well is not only do they have a standard for their characters to be the same people all the time, so that you get used to them and get used to who you're seeing in front of you. When they do introduce people, you're open to the idea. So, yes, they can bring in a black person to sit there and be this character and that character, and people can fall in love with that character, but you haven't changed the whole storyline to try to fit today's narrative because of the way we're in now with today's society and such.
Well, and actually, the other thing, John, and you brought it up, one of the things that Nick Fury, there is a black Nick Fury in the comics.
They brought him along after Samuel L. Jackson portrayed him. And that they did that because Samuel L. Jackson became so popular. And actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that's a case where, and this is my opinion, this is what's going on with comics now and why I no longer collect any of the big two, DC or Marvel, is because they're pandering to that movie audience as opposed to staying true to the comic audience. And again, I sound like an old man shaking his fist at the sky, but you can have one separate from the other. The comics version of these are going to be different, have to be different, because in these live action films, people get old, people change. You can't have that same character be that character for 60 some odd years. Where in comics, you could still draw Tony Stark the same way you drew him back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But the reason I'm glad you brought up Samuel L. Jackson and Nick Fury, why is it? Because Nick Fury is a solid character who had been established in Marvel lore.
Correct.
Why is it okay for Nick Fury to be black and Clark Kent can't?
I have the answer.
Come on.
Aha!
All right, because when the comic series The Ultimates came out, Mark Miller did The Ultimates, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. But when he created The Ultimates, it's an alternate universe of Avengers, and they're not so nice and clean and sanitized as the regular Marvel continuity. But the Nick Fury in that universe was a black guy that they patterned after Samuel L. Jackson. And so when they were started to do the Marvel movies, it was just a natural thing. Like Sam was like, hey, you got to get me to be Nick Fury. You drew him like me in the comics. So what the hell, right? So that's how that came about. So the Nick Fury, the black Nick Fury, is from the Ultimates universe. And so the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a kind of a mix of the regular Marvel continuity and the Ultimates universe. And it was like I said, it was a no-brainer to cast Samuel as Nick Fury.
And that's what I mean with DC.
That was instant credibility.
And with DC, they can bring in multiple worlds. Do a storyline where you're bringing in some of your other people from different storylines and meshing it. And possibly that's how you start introducing characters and so on, so that people don't feel like they're being forced, just like a conversation we had last week, forced to have to watch something because of this inclusivity. You know what I'm saying? People are starting to get turned off a lot now because of feeling like they're being forced to have to, whatever, society is pushing out and doing that. I mean, you hear people getting upset that, oh, why does Captain America have to be such a political figure? And I'm like, he literally wears red, white, and blue. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It does what it says on the package.
Absolutely. But, people are starting to get tired of feeling like they're being force-fed everything today. And I think now is the time to not keep doing that, because this is where you're going to start seeing probably the downfall of a lot of these storylines now in the comics on TV and on film, because people are starting to get very tired of it.
Well, I mean, even in the comics, they addressed that, because when they had different change in political climates, even Steve Rogers himself questioned whether or not he was really doing what he wanted to do or what he thought he was supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when he found out that the government was somewhat corrupt and that he was supporting it, he actually stopped being Captain America in the comics and became Nomad.
Mm-hmm.
So they even addressed that in Marvel continuity.
Mm-hmm.
So there are things that were addressed back then in the 50s and 60s that could easily be addressed now in the same type of way. They kind of did it with the Winter Soldier.
Right.
They kind of went into it a little bit with him, but not that deep. They kind of made it based around the fact that his friend had come back from seemingly the dead and he was killing people. And he had to do something about it. But that whole thing about Project Insight, that could have easily been a crisis of conscience for Cap that they could have focused on more.
But I still want to know why we can have a black Nick Fury, because I know what you're talking about with the Ultimate line, Rod, but in the main continuity, the 616 universe in Marvel, Nick Fury is black now too. He's apparently his son or stepson or something like that.
Nick Fury Jr.
So like Nick Fury Jr. So, but because it's Marvel, we were just like, you know what? Go ahead. You built up enough sweat equity. We're cool with that. So we
make it somewhat feasible. Make it somewhat.
It's not Captain America. I mean, not Captain America. It's not Iron Man being black. How would you think that would go over? It's not. You know what I'm saying? It's not. That's where the problem comes in. You have certain characters.
Primary characters,
right? That people are beloved just as they are, and I think you have sub characters. And quite honestly, as big as Nick Fury is, he's still a sub character. You know what I'm saying? When you look at the entire storyline, so Superman is a primary character. And to
He is
me,
the character for DC.
right. So to do that, that's why it wouldn't work. Maybe that's why I'm saying maybe if they brought in people from other worlds where they do a storyline where they got to fight together or something.
There's 52 different Earths. There's 52 different Earths.
I can
Pick
see
one.
that working, but not making Clark
Yeah.
Kent be a black man. That is just not going to roll over. Imagine sit there introduce, oh yeah, now we got us a black Iron Man. People will go,
Oh, hold on, Lex. It looks like Lex Luthor is thinking. That's got to be no good.
I actually think I have the answer to your question, Uncle John.
Okay.
We're intelligent.
Okay.
And we read. And comic book, owners, comic book buyers, comic book, readers read.
Right.
And the thing is with the movies, and it's always been this way, it's the Cliff Notes. It's you have movie people and you have book people, and you have book people that watch these movies or watch these series and stuff like that. And I think, it's always going to be throughout time that as readers, we can accept more, in the way of differences and oh, there's a new book that came out, there's a new series came out, a new comic book that came out, and check it out, such is black, and we read it and it's quality or it's trash or whatever, and we take it, for what it's worth, and either it sits on the shelf or it gets, devoured like, oh, that shit was off the chain and it's believable and this and the other. People that go to the movies and only go to the movies, like they don't read, they don't, they ain't about the comic book life. They're not, trying to get into backstory and all that shit. They want to go, they want to watch the movie and go, I recognize that person. That's such and such, and this is such and such. And Hugh Jackman better keep working out and eating right because he's going to be the rest of my fucking life until, he shouldn't change until I fucking die, and people who go to the movies, that's acceptable to them because it's like, this, what I see is what it is. And the difference is with, reading, we can imagine, we can picture, a whole lot of things, I'm a fan of so many different series that I've read, and I've got my own thoughts of what I thought that character looked like, what it sounded like, that whole deal. And people who read, out of the 6 of us, I'm sure we've read the same fucking book or something that didn't have illustrations, and we all have very different ideas of what that character looked like to us. If it wasn't described in the book, to a T of what we thought they look like, sound like, whatever, and when it comes to the screen, once it's been established on screen, once that casting director, producer, whatever, director, puts that stamp on it and says, here, this is your Storm. Halle Berry's your Storm. I don't give a fuck what you, wanted, what you thought you wanted. Halle Berry's your Storm. That's who you got, and the more they, shove it down people's throats for, a decade or whatever, it's like, that's Storm, that's Superman, that's Clark Kent, that's, whatever, and what we're arguing now is that, okay, all right, we've read, and we know the background, and we can accept this or we can accept that, but like Uncle Percy said, Uncle Roy said, once even in books, even in legend of the books and the comic books and stuff like that, there's a certain timeline that we've gotten used to, and we accepted that it's like, okay, you know what? this is where it's at. You want to do something new, if you want to come up with something new, if you want to create somebody new, that's fine. But we're talking shit, 70, 80 years of this character to all of a sudden, oh, we're just gonna make them this,
Yeah. I see what you're saying, but it lends itself to what's funny is that I'll go back and read my old comics, and if it's a comic book with Captain America, I'm reading it in Chris Evans' voice. and if it's Iron Man, it's Robert Downey Jr.'s voice. And if it's the Falcon, it's Anthony Mackie. And those characters have become ingrained in me from the screen, whereas in my development of learning these characters, I didn't have a voice for them. So, I get what you're saying. The voice, the fact that we had to imagine, it's okay for us to imagine certain things, but once that face is on the screen and that face is that character, we're just like, no, that's not right. And if they ever try to have another actor as Iron Man other than Robert Downey Jr., I will burn this movie theater down.
That's the power of television. That's the power of movies. I mean, who's your hope?
Yeah.
And it's the power of good storytelling, because if you got good writers, all of that works hand in, and that's why Marvel's so successful in DC. Just simply is not. And I mean, think about it. How many Batmans we've had now? How many, what I'm saying? Just all these different revisions of things. It doesn't give you an opportunity to draw in and love the character like you do in Marvel.
So Uncle Rod, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Uncle Rod, we the airwaves are open and we ain't got nothing but time. The deep dive of DC. Let's deconstruct that, because I'm really upset with the fact that they have the 3 most popular characters in the world and can't seem to do anything with them.
Uncle Rod, before you answer, you're lucky to have been here now, because this motherfucker said we ain't got nothing but time. Car. We was on like there was literally a little sand window.
Hourglass.
That's right, damn it. Because I had to pick my baby up from work at a certain time.
So yeah, you are lucky to have this guy, shit
because several months ago.
So I crashed the party at the right time.
Oh,
just when it was getting live. That's the best time to crash the party.
Oh my gosh.
But no, I hear what you're saying, John, but I'm telling you, man, when I say do a deep dive, I want to go and research and really find out what the hell happened, because and try to come back at another time with a whole lot of notes. I'm gonna be like Auntie Nicole with my legal pad, going through my notes.
Look, there's a reason why I call her Lois Lane, because she's the Pulitzer Prize winning reporter on it. Look at her. But Rod, okay, I think that it really comes down to the fact that Marvel had a specific plan that they were going to stick to.
Mm-hmm.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
They got the main thing is that they got the right person to kick this off, and we can talk about how Blade actually ushered in the Marvel age.
Correct.
But Iron Man in the MCU, Iron Man is the first one, of course. How they kicked it off, they had the perfect actor, the perfect director, the perfect setting. They all set it up. It was like a comic book. They set it up perfectly and knocked it out of the park. And then we're able to build on that. Look, Chris Evans is Captain America. I'm a black man. I'm happy to see Anthony Mackie in the red, white, and blue. But my Captain America, Chris Evans.
I totally understand.
Yeah.
Totally understand.
And
also a straight who has a very unhealthy relationship with Chris Evans. That's all I want.
I do.
But it's just like what you said, John. They did a wonderful job with doing that, because yes, Chris Evans is Captain America, but you're not mad right now that Anthony Mackie is Captain. You see what I'm saying? there's a way in doing that to where it's respectful to everybody involved.
And the people who didn't know what was going to happen in the comics are okay
Right.
with it, seeing it happen on the screen.
Absolutely. And it's like right now with DC, it's like you said, Marvel had a plan, and even if they had some failed ideas, they were able to build off of those failed ideas and create ones that actually work. But it's like, say again?
He said Thor and Iron Man 3.
Okay, but that's
3,
just
Thor,
it. They're able to do something. They're able to sit there and be like, okay, that didn't quite work, so let's go ahead and do this. DC, it's almost as if it's like, oh, that didn't quite work. Well, you know what? We're not even gonna try to fix that. Let's move on to the next thing so we can F that up too. You know what I'm saying? And move on to the next thing because the idea isn't fully evolved.
When they develop
the next thing, you know what I'm saying?
Go ahead, Percy.
So once again, do we blame DC or do we blame Warner Brothers?
Okay. See, that's what that.
Good question.
Because let's be real. Because the movies are fucked up.
Yeah.
The animation is the bomb.
No, you're absolutely right. I love the animation for DC.
Right.
They're wonderful, wonderful pictures.
It's like night and day. I mean, it's
yes.
You know, so like I said, do we actually blame DC or do we?
I'm telling you, when I get ready, I'm gonna have names for you, bro.
Okay.
He dropping dime on everybody.
I think you're absolutely right. We blame Warner Brothers because, you know, when you have that content and everybody loves, you know, DC Comics, and the animation that they do for the series and the television is so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there is. I know people have. You know, you guys have heard it before. There's this. You know, not so much now, especially with COVID and everybody being in the house and watching TV. You know, but for the longest time, that's like, oh, you're a television actor. You know, as opposed to a movie. You know, like movie is the whole.
Different.
You know, it's the hierarchy. You know, it's this class system,
right?
And so I'm sure that the television series DC people can't get a break, you know, because they won't let them, you know, go to the, you know, to the upper level, you know, to perform on that level because they're like, oh, you're just, you know, you're this. You're that, you know, you're on this level. We're movie people.
Okay, so we're looking at DC versus Warner Brothers, right? How is it that the CW shows, Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, Supergirl, Batwoman, have all been able to grab and maintain a specific audience where, okay, so the TV shows are here and they're doing pretty well. They're doing fairly well, following the exact same example for every show, whereas the movies are still considered trash. And mind you, I understand that in our opinion, most of the TV shows are trash as well. We all feel the same about the TV shows. They're still wildly popular.
But the person over DC TV is Greg Berlanti.
Right.
And he's pretty much I think he's executive producer for all those shows.
For every single last one.
Right.
Even Black Lightning.
Right. So he has pretty much final say on what the universe is going to look like, who's going to be used, who's not going to be used. I mean, based on whatever, you know, DC tells him. And I really think that Warner Brothers pretty much just leaves the TV alone. And they let him handle it because he's shown success when we had Arrow and The Flash. So from those two spawned all the other shows. Legends of Tomorrow started out great. It's horrible. But that's just my opinion. Black Lightning, I think.
You're right. It's bad.
Black Lightning had a whole lot of promise, and I think it just kind of went sideways.
Yeah, a little bit.
Batwoman, I never liked. So.
Black Lightning.
Batwoman, I never liked. You know,
I never even saw it.
I would much rather for them to do more episodes of Constantine, to be honest with you. But you know, but again, everything has a sameness to it when he's involved.
It does.
He has a certain format and he's not going to deviate from that because it's successful, and that's why a lot of those shows are able, when they do the crossovers, they're able to mesh almost seamlessly. To Nicole's point earlier, they all of those people normally all exist in the regular DC continuity, but he had them existing in different universes. So he could always make the excuse that that's why this person doesn't see this person because they're in different universes. And when he wants to do a crossover, okay, so now they see each other, now they meet each other. Because
and the crossover became his biggest annual event.
Right.
Yep.
But they're having a hard time being able to translate that, though. They can't seem to translate it
to the film.
Right.
It's because they haven't established the idea of different Earths at the same time existing. They haven't established that at all.
So it's Viacom. So Viacom owns Warner Brothers, right?
It's the other way around, I believe.
Well, Viacom is CBS.
Right. So that's the C in the CW.
CWC, yeah.
So okay. And the reason why I say maybe it's not just Warner Brothers. I gotta start pointing my finger at too. Is the whole Viacom.
But I think Berlanti's over the animated stuff on CWC also.
Yeah.
You know, like the animated Vixen show.
Yeah.
And the Ray, and they had an Arrow one. Animated thing.
But I think you brought up a good point, is that Berlanti is pretty much the iron fist, if you will, over all of these shows. And there is a sameness. The spinoff from Black Lightning that they're going to do with Painkiller, his show, his little setup, because they did like a backdoor pilot with an episode of his show, and it looked exactly like everything. Like they had the secret lair, they had the one guy who was a super smart scientist. They
looked like the ASA.
Right. It was just like, okay, so this is another great Berlanti production. Are we looking for that from DC properties in film? Are we looking for that sameness? Because it worked, the sameness thing, that works for Marvel. Look, I love Marvel films, but Doctor Strange ain't nothing but Iron Man with magic.
No, come on.
Yes.
Well, okay. In terms of the basic themes, where you have a guy who's obviously full of himself and then has to be confronted with something to make him change, that's exactly the same. And when those comics first came out, that's what Stan Lee did. He said he wanted to make people with flaws and turn them into heroes. So that's exactly the same. But I think you're gonna make me go into this anyway. All right, here we go. So all right. With DC, it's like they have a whole bunch of people in a room, and they say, okay, we want you to do one thing, we want you to do another thing, we want you to do this, and we want you get this property, we want you to do that. Okay, well, are they all connected? Yes. So should we have threads to connect all properties? No, you don't have to do that. Do whatever you want. But they're all supposed to be connected. How's that going to work? We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. That seems like exactly what they did.
DC has no continuity.
And it's like, but see, with Marvel, they sat down in a room for a few days. Kevin Feige mapped out exactly what he wanted to happen, what the major plot points or what the major events were going to be, what films they were going to happen, what the phases were going to be. He said, okay, if this is going to be the first phase, we're going to lead up to this. This is going to be created here. This is when we're going to lead into that. They sat down and mapped it out, much like, surprise, surprise, people do in a writer's room for a comic book. So it's the same thing. So that's why you have the type of continuity, or you have the type of connectivity, and you have the type of pacing as you do in a comic book with each one of the MCU films. Each one of the MCU films, you look at it as a separate comic book, and then you have then you have different guest stars or cameos for different characters from other films. But the main thread was always there. The main thread was Thanos. The main plot point was Thanos, and they established that in the Avengers. Now think about the movies they had up to that point. Before that, they were still connected and it was still good. At the end of the Avengers is where we saw Thanos.
Right.
who was the main villain of that whole plot line. Before that, we knew about Infinity Stones. We knew, what they did, kind of. We know where they came from.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that. Now, people who have read the comics knew that, okay, if these things are Infinity Stones, it's gonna be a gauntlet, and the motherfucker wearing the gauntlet was purple, right? So they all knew,
With a scrotum on his face.
right? Look at you. But they,
it was a joke I heard before.
yeah. So they
Nicole
all
just
knew,
came out of nowhere.
right? They all knew Thanos was the dude.
Not fired.
They all knew Thanos was the dude. All right.
But
So but they knew also that there was going to be stuff after that, and so because they had already planned it out, so they said, okay, well, after Thanos is dealt with, this is what we have. We're going to build up to another event, and it looks like this next one is probably going to be Kang the Conqueror. And things might have changed because they recently acquired Fox, the Fox properties. So the next big villain might end up being Doctor Doom. Either way, he's able to pivot and move things around and get organized so that if he wanted it to be Doom, it could be Doom. If he still wants it to be Kang, it could still be Kang. But the one fault I do have with Marvel is how they're handling their TV, and I think that needs a little work. But overall, the whole idea, the concept of this one big, huge plot, I think is the way to go, especially when you're dealing with comic books. And another thing is because they had comic book writers.
Before you get up in arms about the TV, I just want to say, because it just dawned on me, as far as DC is concerned, do we think, and I'm asking the whole crew, do you think maybe DC's problem, because it just dawned on me that we always know who's directing the DC property as far as movies are concerned. There's this huge thing. We just went through this whole thing about the Zack Snyder cut. You know what I mean? Like, it's all about the director, the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight. The Josh Whedon cut, the Zack Snyder cut. So why? Maybe that's the fucking problem, is that they're making it all about the director and his vision.
Might be something. You might be onto something, DJ.
That's actually
movies do that. It's like, Stephen King hated the fucking Shining because it had, he felt like even
that
though
wasn't him.
Right. And even
Stanley
though
Kubrick's Shining, he hated.
Right. It was Kubrick. And Kubrick is this phenomenal director. And I think a lot of people loved The Shining, scared shit out of him, and everything. But the writer, himself through the ages has always said, Kubrick shit is not my fucking Shining. Like, that is not my Shining.
Right. But
and
you know what?
One that was his Shining was horrible. When they did the remake, that was an absolute atrocious movie.
What's funny, DJ, that's a good point, because if you remember with Ant-Man, Edgar Wright was originally supposed to direct it, and he helped write the screenplay. But because his vision and Marvel's vision did not coincide, Marvel said, get up out of here, and hired somebody who was more in line with what they wanted Ant-Man to be. Not only that, but the director of the newest of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, they went and it's not like they were at odds with the previous director, but they went and got Sam Raimi because they wanted the movie to be more in the horror vein. I think you're right in that Marvel hires its directors not because of the name, but because they can get more in line with what they're looking for their films to be. Because Justice League was Zack Snyder's baby, and you see, if you leave him unfettered, you get 2.5 hours of people running in slow motion, and you get.
You're right.
It reminds me of the Jeffrey Holder character in Boomerang. Marcus is like, do what you want. You're the man.
You know what I'm saying? Marvel doesn't put the director above the property. Like, I can't tell you who directed what except for John Favreau in the beginning, you know, because
Right.
he was part of it. But it wasn't like John Favreau's Iron Man. You know what I mean?
Right.
But all of the DC properties, if you notice, are Christopher Nolan, Josh Whedon. You know, it's that type of deal. And I think that's where Warner Brothers comes in with that whole, you know, this vision. You know, it's this director's vision, and it's like, hey, we're just putting the money behind it. That motherfucker fucked up. It wasn't us. It was
That's, you know what, D, that's a good point.
The
Because
name that's over every Marvel film is Marvel.
Right.
Marvel.
Right.
Marvel's
The Warner Brothers is into
for
spectacle.
anything you see.
But see, DJ, that's a good point, because that's what I always thought about the DC movies. It's like every movie is like someone deciding, you know what, okay, so they did that one with Batman. Let me do my Batman and do this. Oh, you know what? This next one, okay, let me do my Batman.
Right.
Now, one person has drawn the connection so you can create that greater story. Everything that you said, Rod, was in Marvel was to connect everyone to Thanos. You see what I'm saying? So every story had a connection. In DC, it's always like, let me give my Superman a try. Oh no, let me give my Batman a try. And not one of those movies connect. Like when you look at Aquaman, that movie connects to none of them. It's just Aquaman. And then they still, I mean, even when they did the Snyder Cut, they ended up changing so many different things. There is just no continuity.
I knew the song was coming.
I know, look, Uncle Percy. Exactly. Exactly, Uncle Percy. I still, the stupidest thing I've ever seen in any movie of my life. They just break out an operatic song. And when you look at Aquaman, does he look like an opera guy? No, he looks like a guy going Hell's Angel. You know what I'm saying? That's what you're looking at. Just anyway, I have a gripe with that so badly. But anyway.
No, you should. I have no problem with that. So I think we've gone as far down that rabbit hole as we can. So Marvel is way up here.
Yes.
And DC is way down here.
Yes.
But what I want to ask next, let's talk
DC,
about
why are you this way?
Right.
Let's talk about the stuff in the middle. So since and again, I'm showing my age. We've had these superheroes and these superhero films that have tried to maintain where the superheroes were back in the day. Now we've got this, what I like to call superhero porn, where you've got superheroes doing whatever they want to, whether it's screwing or chopping people's heads off.
Right.
So I wanted to get everybody's opinion about the 3 superhero properties that are out there right now. We had The Boys, 2 seasons of The Boys right now. We just finished one season, the first season of Invincible. And I just today finished watching the first season of Jupiter's Legacy. So these are 3 series that you could say kind of deconstruct the entire superhero mythos, and just kind of curious as to where we put them in terms of, you know, like I said, Marvel is up here doing everything right. DC's down here doing everything wrong. How do these 3 series fit into this particular genre?
It's almost like saying, like how they did Halloween. You had John Carpenter's Halloween, which would be like Marvel and so on like that. And then you have Rob Zombie. And that's where all of these Invincible and everything, they fall into there. This is for those people who just want to see people kicking butt and seeing it for that's what I'm saying. It's like the PG-13 compared to the rated R. People want to see something a little bit more gritty. And if you ask me, that's where all of that fall into, which is one of the things I like. That's one of the reasons why I kind of like DC, because their storylines isn't all cake and ice cream like Marvel for the most part. You know, Marvel cleans everything up because they're so busy trying to keep everything wholesome. And DC would probably be a wonderful Rob Zombie-like enterprise if they could get good writing and movies and stuff on the screen. This right now, Invincible and all of this satisfies that sweet tooth for me, where I can sit there and actually see you know what, in the real world, this is what happens. You know what I'm saying? People don't always get to stop and just be like, oh, I'm a good guy now. I'm Captain America. So no, sometimes it's hard to stop. You sit there, see somebody ripping somebody off or what have you. I want to see that. I want to see a rated R or whatever. And
so how do we rank these shows?
That stuff is good in R. I can tell you, Nicole. Invincible would be good in R.
Yes.
So how are we ranking these shows? Which one do we find the most appealing? Which one is the least?
Honestly, I'm an Invincible fan. I find that up front.
So well, let me ask first. Has everyone seen at least a part of Jupiter's Legacy?
I have.
Yeah, okay. I've seen all the episodes.
I've watched all of them.
I've only seen a couple, but it's okay.
Well, we know you have a real job now, DJ. You can't see everything like that.
Well, as far as I can say, as far as advancing the plot and pacing, I really like Invincible because they kind of just throw you in there and then you just kind of have to hold on and go for the ride with it. And I kind of like that. I like the creativity they have with the different heroes, and I thought that was cool. With Jupiter's Legacy, which is another Mark Miller thing, by the way. It's another Mark Miller creation. I just recently found out that this whole first season is pretty much only like 2 or 3 issues of the comic. So, wow. They're going really slow, and they really wanted to hone in on the whole origin story of the Union, which is good because sometimes people need that backstory. And you kind of get an idea because Mark Miller is how he is with his writing, and it's going to be a lot of shock value in there. There's going to be deconstruction of the whole superhero mythos, and it's going to be bloody. That those 3 things right off the bat when you deal with Miller.
Well, here's the thing that I find interesting in that Jupiter's Legacy was really slow. Like you said, I didn't know that it was like it was only the first 2 issues. Yeah. I hadn't read the comic, so I found it intriguing. There was a storyline that I didn't already kind of know. But it was 8 episodes, like 40 minutes each. And even though it was slow, I found myself still engrossed by the plot. And I found it even though all 3 of these series kind of touch on the whole, if superheroes were in the real world and how would they act without their constraints, I found Jupiter's Legacy to have me say, okay, well, what's happening next? What's going to happen next? Like, spoilers, by the way. Milk is chilling. Sorry. When you've got Sheldon, on this quest, and why was his father picked to be the one to lead him down this quest, and why was he just trying to get him to say no so many times? I was like, okay, this is intriguing to me. I'm finding this intriguing. The one issue that I have,
and you still really don't know,
right? And very true. The one issue that I have, and this is squarely on the shoulders of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the brother truly played the background the entire time. It's like they really had no time to show his story or how he maneuvered around. I mean, he was still, even though he was superpowered, he was a superpowered black man in the 30s. So right. How did that, what's the deal with that? And
right.
He was treated, this in that regard, it was more along the lines of what I'm used to seeing back in the 70s and 80s when they had one brother on the team and he was just like, hey, here you go, fellas. And then that was all you saw. And with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the brother was up in front. I was like, hey, okay, Black Panther, the brother's in front. And now we right back where we started from, where, you had Hope driving the car, just kind of happened to be there. So aside from that, go ahead, Roy.
So I was going to say, because I definitely want to get on this conversation. I actually like the Jupiter's Legacy thing, the way they do it. Like, I did not know what Rod was saying, what Rod just said about it being the first few issues of the comic. Because, of course, I didn't read the comic. But the thing that was most interesting to me in the overall plot was that Utopian goes to see a psychologist who's actually the evil genius that was trying to kill him and put him away. But when you listen to all of the stuff he's saying, you see all of it. You see that this guy, like, if don't nobody else understand Utopian, guess what? Doctor locked up and got you locked. He got you done. And then I thought about the same thing that you were just saying with the brother. What this did for me is it, like, to me, they set up future seasons. And they're making me think right now that that's what they're doing. That they're setting you up, and you're going to see some of the storylines. Because I found it very interesting that apparently the brother's power was light and speed, or I guess. So those were two of his powers. And so the question is, what happened to him now? Because now he's in a wheelchair.
Right. That makes me want to know what happened to him. How did he end up in that wheelchair?
Right.
Kind of like I still want to know what happened to Ben Greaves from the Umbrella Academy. Like, he died. How did he die? What happened?
Right.
You know.
And the other part about that, like, one of the things that I noticed in that situation, it was brief that they dropped him in the lead of it, but we see that he is the intelligent one in the group. He's the brains of the team.
Yeah.
And he said, "I'm a black man. I ain't have a choice but to read." You know, they would.
Right. Well, yeah. Of course, you know, the one instance where he had an extended, you know, any extended scene that he had was either with his daddy or with another brother, where he had to explain, well, I just like to read. You know, I just like, okay. And you're right. They're setting up future seasons, and I get that. But, you know, after we've seen so many characters of color who have been empowered, to be regulated to second dude from the right again just kind of got under my skin. But one thing, being an avid comic book reader and follower of comic book characters, one thing that I have to say about Jupiter's Legacy is that they did not give us clear-cut examples of what each character's powers were. I mean, you know what the Utopian can do. You can do what Lady Liberty can do. But most of the others is just kind of like guessing, like, okay, he's shooting fire from his hands, lightning.
The black guy, the Flare.
Right.
His name was the Flare. They never said it. And he shoots energy beams. All of them have super strength.
All of them have super strength. All of them can fly.
Some stronger than others. Right.
Yeah, and they all can fly. So I just was like, okay, so I appreciate the fact that they want us to find out more about these characters, but give me a more descriptive, just give me a better description of their skill set, essentially. You know, instead of, you know, it being so vague. There's you know, there's got to be something where to draw. You know, old comic book heads just like, okay, what can he do? What can he do?
Right.
Know? Or what can she do? But for me, I think Jupiter's Legacy. I have to say, no, that'd be a lie. The Boys would be number one of these three. The Boys would be number one just because not only was it first out the gate, but it's just bananas. it's just absolutely bananas. And I have to say, Jupiter's Legacy and Invincible is neck and neck right now, man. I can appreciate, of the three, Invincible is the one that I've actually read the entire line, so I know where everything's going.
Right.
And I saw that first season, they were just, it seemed like that first season they were trying to throw every
plot thread out there. Yeah.
At least one episode, there was something else that they were throwing out, like, okay, now check back next season to see how this goes along. So I think Invincible kind of rushed it. I'm of the mindset that I like stuff to be kind of slow and drawn out. You know what I'm saying? I'll put you like this. I was a fan of the TV show Lost. And as it was, Rod knows where I'm going with it. I knew that at the end I was going to be disappointed. I knew it because they had so many dangling plot lines and so many threads And more often than not, I enjoyed where the plot was going. But I knew there was no way that they could cohesively bring everything back together.
That's like the last
example,
season of Game of Thrones for me.
Yeah. Just as an example.
Oh my gosh,
Walt, the little black boy who was on the show, they were on that island. The show lasted too long. The boy grew out of the role. you couldn't have him remain 10 years old. I mean, they say between 2 or 3 seasons he had a growth spurt. And it's just like, okay, we got to write him out because there's no way that this can only be a 7-month span.
His voice done changed and everything.
Right. And he's grown 3 feet tall, you know.
And he got a beard.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, The Boys first, and then Invincible and Jupiter's Legacy are kind of tying for that second spot. But anybody else who's seen all 3, where are you putting them?
Oh, that puts me out.
So just back to Auntie Nicole, what she was saying between Marvel being all sweet and DC and all that stuff. We got to remember where Marvel's at. Marvel's under that Disney.
Right. Yeah.
And Disney, and just like it says Marvel, at the end of the day, it's Disney. Everything is Disney. Everything gotta be Sesame Street type of scenario compared to DC, where it's like, hey, let me just take this lighter and let me fart and see if flames come out my ass. That kind of thing. That's basically what it is. But and maybe this is a whole thing about being superhero porn, because actually I'm actually kind of burnt out, because between everything we've been watching, even with WandaVision, and now it's The Boys and Invincible. I'm kind of getting worn out, and everybody's like, okay, let's get ready for Loki. And then you saw the article I just sent out saying, yeah, you guys should watch Defenders again. What the fuck is wrong with that? Whoever wrote that
article? Real quick, Brian asked, where can we find Jupiter's Legacy? It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
So, and Netflix. I mean, between Netflix and Amazon, I don't know what they're thinking about, but they just keep throwing out stuff constantly.
Mm-hmm. See, that's them milking the market right now.
Right,
they're striking while the pot is hot, because eventually it is going to die down. Eventually, this is going to be, and we'll be on to the next thing. I don't know what it'll be, but it'll be something else that is not going to be superheroes, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we'll start looking at, I don't know, real people actually finally having superpowers. I don't know, but just.
Yeah. I think Invincible, for me, Invincible is number 1, and then between Jupiter and The Boys, it's like it's going. I was going like this. When I started watching Jupiter, I'm like, okay, is this like the alternate universe of The Boys? What the hell is going on? Like, just trying to figure out, but
That's one of the reasons why I like the animated stories, because it does for me, it gives me a break of all of the, yes, there's superhero stuff too, but they can do so much more with animation than they can trying to do with real people. I mean, green screen can only do but so much. And for me, the DC animated stories and so on, even the ones that, are kind of off shelf, like Mosaic and everything that Stan Lee did and so on, those actually gives me a little bit of a reprieve from all of the superhero Marvel and so on like that. They just kind of bring a little bit different flavor, and you get to see a lot more imagination.
The animated DC features are now going to have a different look to them, because the ones that previously were done, they all had a New 52 aesthetic. They all wanted them to look kind of like the New 52, how it was drawn. But now that they've stopped that and they went into Rebirth, they're going to look a little different. They're going to make a concerted effort to make it look different. So, starting with the Justice Society one that's coming out, but it's already out actually digitally.
Isn't Grant Morrison doing the? I was wondering, is he doing the drawing for the Rebirth? I can't remember.
He did. I think he did a couple of issues of some Rebirth. some of the rebirth
Because
issues.
I kind of like his style, like with the new Wonder Woman, when he did
Right.
Wonder Woman. I thought that looked, it was just better from the lollipop look that we kept getting with a lot of the animated stuff.
So
Gotcha.
I just want to thank Uncle Percy for actually answering my question.
So John, wait, 'cause I was about
And
to. I didn't
we
get a
feel
chance.
right back to DC. We ain't messing with DC no more. The Boys, Jupiter's Legacy, Invincible.
So mine is Jupiter's Legacy,
Okay.
Invincible, and The Boys, and I'll tell you why. I like Jupiter's. The main reason I like Jupiter's Legacy.
Can you stay still?
No, when I talk, camera is sitting on my lap.
That's funny.
Sorry.
And so,
And now he's gonna put food in his mouth and try to talk. Really?
exactly. But Jupiter's Legacy to me, it's funny because it actually kind of, to me, it calls back to something that we saw in Falcon and the Winter Soldier with Zemo and his thought process about enhanced humans and super beings. And we're seeing the psychological, I mean, really, when you think about it, Jupiter, or not Jupiter, but Utopian is dealing with a psychological break. And I mean, this is like real life for him, because it was all about, like the guy said, it was about his dad, you know, and the fact that he wants to stay alive in the minds of the people that he's dealing with. Because I listen, and this is a question that I actually did want to ask of the group, because it's funny to me when you realistically think about it. Because yes, as big of a Batman as I am, there has always been the one flaw that he would not kill the Joker. Because, dude, if Joker ever went to trial, guess what he's going to get?
Insanity defense.
Yeah.
No, he's going to get the death penalty.
No, he's going to Arkham.
He killed enough people. They've killed enough people. Once you've killed enough people, you can get the right judge and throw it out the window. There's somebody. To me, I think there's a difference, and this is the whole. And the irony of this, Rod. This is kind of where I'm going with the storyline that we're working on. There are two different sides of the people with particular skill sets. Those who have the what we would either call the greater good or the bigger picture, and then there are those who say that there's three. The greater good is the overall bigger picture. Then you have those that just whatever means necessary. And then the third would be where Utopian is with his code. We don't kill. No matter that this person has already killed 30 people and has stated that he's going to continue to kill people if we keep bringing him to justice and then letting him get out. It's the same thing that's going to happen. At some point, to me, you got to be like, all right, you know what, dude? You need to go. You know, and these people, just like your son did. You're like your son did. His son made a choice.
Tried in Texas and California.
Huh?
I said, I guess it's the difference between him being tried in Texas and California. I mean, or New York. I mean, New York is going to put that motherfucker away, you know, on some island. You know, they're going to put him in, you know, Rikers or whatever, as opposed to Texas, which is like, gotta go. You know.
And that's the thing, because even in that, you know, for those, like I said, spoiler for those that haven't seen it yet, he made a choice. Utopian was about to buy the damn farm.
Yeah.
Whether he wanted to admit it or not.
Right.
Dude, you was about to be gone. And your son was like, I got one way of stopping this dude.
Right.
I'm going to cave his skull in. I'm be like, and the thing that was so funny, Mom really wanted to be like, thank you, son. We really appreciate that.
Right.
But
But
she's
Dad
like,
didn't want
Listen,
that.
listen. If I were Utopian, I'd have said, "I understand, son, but hey, you gotta do what you had to do."
For real.
I take
We'll
it
get
this
you-
is
we'll get you some therapy.
Talking about.
yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have chastised him so bad.
I like that. That's the main reason that story is number one for me, because I really want to see where this dynamic goes and how they deal with that.
That's why I enjoy Jupiter's Legacy, because it's easy for a creator to just make superheroes and say, you know what? Fuck it. Kill him, kill her, kill them. Because they're threatening, the whole population of the planet. Kill them, then you're done. It's also easy to say, well, we do not kill because we are better than that.
Listen, man, if I'm Batman, I might fight the Joker 3 times. Okay, you poison the water supply in Gotham. Okay, dude, you crazy. I have to put you away. Okay, you got Joker gas, Joker venom gas in fish.
Right.
Okay, you got one more time now. You kill Robin. All right, you got to go.
Right. It's just like,
how many times Batman dangling people off the side of a building?
But, okay, and in Jupiter's Legacy, they had that moment too, where he was about to take out Paragon. Black Star was about to take out Paragon. Why does his name have to be Black Star? But anyway, Black Star was about to take out Paragon. Oh, I'm always going to stand on that. I'm tired of the bad thing being black. That's
Black Flag, Black Plague, Black Monday.
that has to be taken out of our lexicon. Anyway,
that's going to take a few hundred years, but I hear you.
It is, but I mean, as long as I'm around, I'm not down with that. But Black Star had Paragon and was like, I'm about to kill this dude. Here's my neck. You can zap me in my neck right now. I'm about to kill your son. And he stood there. Come on, man. That was that Batman Joker moment where it's just like, okay, with Batman, if Batman was standing there as Joker was pummeling Robin to death, would he have given him that death blow? So I dug that particular aspect of the show. And I mean, yeah, Roy, I agree with you. Jupiter's Legacy, each one of these shows gives you a different take on the superhero who will do what needs to be done. Each one gives you a different tweak to it.
And that's why I like Invincibles, because to me, that's actually a little more realistic, because you fighting somebody and, hey, how many times are you going to have those moments where you're like, okay, you got to be the stand-up person, and this guy done killed 500 people, whatever amount of people. Guess what? The realism of that, they got to go. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just rid the earth of them. I mean, you know what I'm saying? On that kind of level, these people are doing things on that level, and it's not like you're doing it without. And I know that's the whole thing. That's the issue, by taking the law in your own hands and so on.
And that's what separates the heroes from
and so on line. You see what I'm saying? When you start sitting there and you seeing that's the realistic line. When you sit back and look at it, they are actually going, just like how you said, Uncle John, about what's his name, Walker. He is the Captain America of today. You know what I'm saying? Of what the world is now. The world is not. I can tell you now, even the most best cop ain't gonna sit there. When you look at the Invincibles, you got yourself somebody that's been killing all these people or whatever. Somebody's got to die. You know what I'm saying? And it's gonna be a bad guy.
Hey, that's interesting. There is another police brutality case where a young lady had a knife and was attacking another young lady,
and the dude shot her 5 times.
Shot her dead. So people are saying, well, why didn't you wound her? Why didn't you? There's a fraction of people who are saying, why did you shoot to kill? And there's another faction of people who are like, she was about to do fatal damage to somebody.
I believe the policeman's thing is that when they shoot to kill.
They shoot to kill.
And so it's not shoot the wound per se. Now it's up to the cop if he decides to do that, but there's also ramifications for that. But I think in situations that are somewhat clear cut, as this, I don't know the whole story, but when you're looking at someone in immediate danger or something like that, it is typically shoot to kill.
Split second decision.
Here's the question with that one. Are we looking at him as the typical same thing that we've been dealing with, police officer that shoots a black person? Or are we looking at him as saving the other young lady's life?
I mean, and that's just
he's in a tough spot. Yeah.
It was a black girl. That was another black kid
Yeah.
that he saved. If I'm her dad, I'm like, you motherfuckers need to step off.
Right. I was going to say that if that was anyone's if that was
But see,
anyone
but
here
the
child,
biggest
we'd say,
difference in this,
do what you have to do.
and that's it. That's the biggest difference in this. You're looking at a clear-cut, aggressive type of situation. This is something where somebody was aiming to hurt somebody else. You know what I'm saying? It's not, where it's all vague and you can't see nothing, or they got them and the person they've already, disarmed them and different things like that. I know things can be seen differently, but yeah, it is a situation where you're looking at someone actually about to do harm to someone else.
Hey guys, real quick, I'm gonna have to jump off a little early tonight, so I'm gonna find a cop to harass about shooting people. No, I'm playing, but I do need to get off real quick. But I really enjoyed tonight. I think we got some good traction on a lot of stuff, and I'm still gonna do that research on DC. We're gonna figure this out, man.
Yeah. And we're gonna
figure
hand them
something out.
the thesis. That's what I'm saying. Hand the thesis over and get paid for it.
Exactly. All right, y'all have a good night.
Take care.
All right, Rod. Appreciate you,
All
man.
right, bye.
All right.
So, since we've gone about as far down as that rabbit hole as we can, unless someone else has something they would like to share, I'm going to, Percy, I'm looking squarely at you.
All right, I'm gonna let Uncle Percy off the hook.
Okay.
That, I saw a bit of the video of the girl with the knife, and I have to agree with Uncle Roy. We have our issues right now with the police brutality and stuff like that, but I do have to say that what do you say to the black family of the black girl who is being attacked by a girl with a knife, regardless of if she called the police first or not? Here she comes rushing at somebody with a knife, and as a person who has had a family member die because they were stabbed, by an ex-girlfriend or whatever with a knife, and it only takes one stab. It's not like, oh, well, you let them stab them once, and then you react. No, it only takes one stab. So I'm kind of with that in the sense that, how do you say he overreacted when he saved somebody else's life in that decision? So
One thing I find intriguing is that on social media, I've seen a number of people express anger in the fact that we're okay in the fact that a cop shot a black girl. I would be the first to consider myself to be an ally of black women. Seeing as how I'm married to one, I got 2 daughters. I am the first to jump in to defend and or protect black women. But I just don't see it, again, equating this to what we're talking about on these television shows. It's not black and white. There are shades of gray.
Right.
There's another case of a young man in Chicago who was shot, and there was outrage, but evidence showed that he had a gun and he threw it away at some point right before the police came to him and shot him.
Oh, he wasn't black. But still, no, I give you that, but he wasn't black.
He wasn't black, no, but still, it's still a young man who lost his life.
Right. Right.
It was, yeah, you're right. He was Hispanic, wasn't he?
I think he was. He was either Asian or Hispanic, one or the other. I think he might have been
one of the two. But still a minority
right.
who was shot.
Absolutely.
And it's just, there's, in situations like these, there's such, and I understand that these officers have been trained, but you have minutes, seconds to decide whether this person is a threat to you or to anyone else around you. So I say all this to say that these shows, Invincible, or not necessarily Invincible or The Boys, but Jupiter's Legacy brings up a very good point of when is it appropriate, when is it necessary, and who says who can be judge, jury, and executioner.
Right.
Well, my thing with that, real quick, not to go down a deep rabbit hole, is the problem more so is that there's no, there's no citizens review board. There's no, with the whole qualified immunity for all police officers, there's no accountability. So, there were accountability. If there was accountability in the sense that you could look at each individual situation and say, okay, this was justified, this was not, and you can hold those accountable who were obviously, fucked up in their, in their decision making, and it was obviously, that type of situation. Our fight is that, okay, give us the ability on a nationwide level, state by state, community by community, to be able to hold those accountable who need to be held accountable. Then we can identify the officers that are actually protecting us in those situations, even if they're protecting us from us. But at the present time, it's like, well, whatever they do, it's fine, and it's defensible. The bigger problem, problem is that we can't hold those accountable that need to be held accountable. And so that trickles down to all of them. And as many of us who know, very good, friends who are cops and stuff like that, it's like, we want to give you the benefit of the doubt, but they won't let us even hold the people who are obviously guilty accountable.
True. Yeah. I mean, and then, what do you do when that person can fly and can bullets bounce off their chest? Sure. So, man, we certainly went down that rabbit hole just now. So thank you, Uncle DJ, for that. Uncle Percy, give me something. Give me what you got.
About what?
Keep a power.
Right.
About what?
Nicole, got your thing.
Oh man.
I got a question.
What, man?
So, okay. I'm gonna bring this back to Marvel. So back in the 70s, there was three Marvel shows that came out. One was The Incredible Hulk.
Okay.
One was Captain America.
Right.
One was Spider-Man. Right. Out of those three, which one was your favorite?
Hulk.
Really?
Yeah. You talking about Bill Bixby, right?
That has to be everybody.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said that has to be everybody, that the Hulk was your favorite. Because the thing about the Hulk, to me, is that, again, as much as we can say it's comic book, it felt like it was real. And I think the fact that you even had Lou Ferrigno playing the Hulk, because of the fact that they didn't have the CGI back then,
right?
They could make somebody how he was supposed to be as big as the actual Hulk was. We knew people who were Lou Ferrigno size, and it's just like it was always about his anger being triggered.
Mm-hmm.
We knew people who blew off the handle when their anger got triggered. So,
and you're talking about Captain America, who had that plastic see-through shield.
Yep, and the bike and the motorcycle.
Yes, my God, that was terrible, man.
Well, that was
I paid
pre-kid.
more attention to the greatest American hero. That was my thing. But I mean, that's kind of like what broke me in. That and Speed Racer broke me into the whole comic book genre thing. But I have to admit, Hope was the way to go, man. That was my thing. Watching him on TV.
Mine was Spider-Man. Mine was the Spider-Man.
Really?
Yeah.
That was terrible too, man.
It was Spider-Man.
What was the other one you mentioned, Uncle Percy?
Spider-Man, Captain America, and Hulk.
Oh, see, Captain America, I didn't get into him until later for some reason, and I think it was
Evans.
Yeah, it's not even that. I mean, I read more about Sam before I really got into Captain America, and that was just because I had the comics at that point. But I mean,
watching the cartoons like Speed Racer and the old Spider-Mans and the Thor and the Captain America, and then Marvel said, okay, we're going to have a so-called live TV show. At the time as a kid, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is the bomb. I mean, Captain America was the kit before. I mean, he had the bike that went silent and all that stuff, had all the gadgets on the bike. And then, right.
Look, even though we didn't know better, it was still bad.
Right, well.
Right.
Captain America had a plastic shield that was see-through.
I'm gonna have to look this up again because I just can't remember it.
It's just like Shazam, ISIS.
All that stuff, man. Yeah, that was great. But I mean, just so okay. Thank you for that. That was terrible. So Nicole, what you got?
Wait a minute, I'm not finished.
Yeah, yes you are. Nicole, what you got?
Yeah. Shots fired.
Oh my gosh. No, I just was curious because I don't know if you guys seen a little bit of the stuff I put in messaging about the whole thing with Gal Gadot. And it's like one of those things that I look at, when you got these entertainers, you know what I'm saying? And people, I understand the role she plays in the movies and so on, you know what I'm saying? She's a good girl character, so on like that. But I think people are so, they hang on these actors to the point where in real life, people forget these are people too outside of what we see on the screen. They can be completely different or whatever they are outside of that. And I'm trying to think, what do you guys weigh in on, say, someone's thoughts or what have you on real life events, you know what I'm saying, when they're not active? So for instance, the whole thing with Gal Gadot, I mean, she's Israeli, you know what I'm saying, and stuff, and they're at war or whatever right now going on over there. And she was having a heartfelt message about her family being over there and things like that. And people were scrutinizing like some of the words or so on she used in her tweet. And they're now calling for her to be taken away as Wonder Woman and not being Wonder Woman. And you see what happened to what's her name from Star Wars. I mean, from The Mandalorian. After a while, it finally got to them and they ended up getting rid of her and so on.
And now she's getting no war.
What did she say? What did
it was a tweet about something, and one of the words that people were hanging on was her using the term neighbors, and she was talking about I forget the other countries they're in the fight with over there. Forgive me, but it's people were sitting there saying, she couldn't name us or name this or and I'm just kind of thinking to myself, for one, these people choose their words carefully, so to try to not trigger people sometimes, you know what I'm saying? And to me, using neighbors to me is just trying not to, sometimes when you're in entertainment, you can't be so specific because it can cause a problem. And I'm just thinking that our society today is just making things so hard to just be. I can see if she just completely said something terrible or what have you. And mind you, she may not fully understand everything that's going on with what's going on over there. But I'm thinking that, we got this whole society now of these SJWs, these social justice warriors now, that want to fight everything. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I don't get it, and I don't understand it. And I mean, like, what do you guys feel about that?
Well, I mean, Neighbors is supposed to be, it has, through time been like a friendly,
You would
supposed
think.
to be a friendly term, as far as, your neighbor. This is not your enemy. This is your neighbor. This is something.
I mean, and I guess people are questioning it because in this case, the neighbors are fighting with,
No, I
you know what I'm saying? But
like,
yeah.
The thing with the Israelis and the Muslims is that, the Pakistanis, whatever you want to, identify, but, it's basically a religious war between, the Jews and the Muslims, and they have the exact same religious site. The thing they can't get over is that, they can't.
It's land. It's where they,
It's land, but it's these holy sites that they can't share.
Right.
Literally can't come to an agreement to say, we both are worshiping, we both are, feeling that these sites are special and they're holy, and but we don't want to share them. Like, this is our.
I get it.
No, it's our site. No, it's our site. No, it's our site. And that's bullshit.
DJ, let me. I got the quote here. Read it real quick. My heart breaks. My country is at war. I worry for my family, my friends. I worry for my people. This is a vicious cycle that has been going on for far too long. Israel deserves to live as a free and safe nation. Our neighbors deserve the same. I pray for the victims and their families. I pray for the unimaginable hostility to end. I pray for our leaders to find the solution so we could live side by side in peace. I pray for better days.
Now, maybe I'm missing something, but I didn't find anything wrong with what she said.
There's nothing wrong
with as peaceful as you can possibly say it, because she is speaking both sides. They want peace. You know what I'm saying? And I know that it probably never will happen because this has been going on since almost the beginning of time, this whole fight. But my thing is why are we hanging on someone? This is where she's from. We're not from there. And then the fact that she happens to be Wonder Woman, you know what I'm saying? It's making it even more like
to play devil's advocate. People will take anything and twist it to however they want to use it. The fact that she expressed the enemy as a neighbor, I could see how if I'm engaged fully in this war and I'm fighting for my life, there's no way I'm calling that motherfucker a neighbor.
I understand.
I understand that. But I'm also of the opinion that I ain't got nothing to do with that.
Right.
If she's trying to broker some type of accord,
right,
by a tweet that she probably just threw out there and said, you know what, I'm trying not to offend anybody.
Absolutely.
And then it blows up to offend everybody. I don't know. It's the world is stupid, people are stupid, and that's that.
Right. Yeah, it's just I think that they hang too much, like our entertainers, for instance. I can see if she said something really messed up. You know what I'm saying? I get it. But they're trying to use the entertainment factor as a way to kind of like bully, you know what I'm saying, the whole situation. And I just kind of feel like, even though, there are people too and so on, but this is just, you're using the fact that she's an entertainer and so on like that as a means of trying to discredit her because of everything that's going on. You know what I'm saying? And it's something, because the thing is that it happens with us too. I mean, think about it. As Black people, we have to watch what we say or else we're labeled something. You know what I'm saying? And such. It's the same thing. And I just was curious at what you guys thought. That's all.
That really upset you, didn't it, Nicole?
It's not. I ain't over there, so you know what I'm saying. But it's just something that I think, because we got people wanting to fight everything nowadays. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's tiring now.
It is.
It's getting too much.
I agree. Uncle Roy, what's coming up on the network?
Big news next week.
What?
You know, that was, you know what? That was perfect. That was perfect. Big news next week.
I know what your thought process is. That's why I said it the exact way that I did. I answered the question. Big news next week.
All right. Well, if you've been with the show from the beginning, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Wait.
Please come back.
Wait.
Hopefully you enjoy the talk. Come back and visit us again. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Man. What do you want?
Good night.
And now he's silent. All right,
Oh
Jay.
my gosh.
Peace and blessings. Thank you for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week.